My name is Lovell, UP Cooper. We are at Loyola University, and I am a professor, adjunct professor of urban music production, and graduate of Grambling State University. Okay, so I was the head producer at, but 3 years ago I was the head producer at Invictus Records. And I was also the studio manager for the Salt Mine Oasis in Phoenix, Arizona. So basically what happened is I ran the studio in terms of, for Invictus Records. And I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar studio. It's one of the top studios in the country. And it was amazing. It's a great experience. I love doing it. It's what makes it all worthwhile, you know. I've also worked doing gospel. I've produced Rebecca McGowan, who does country music. I've worked with a numerous amount of hip hop, R&B artists. I've done, even a little bit of jazz, recorded a little bit of jazz, and so yeah, I've dabbled in as much as I can. I've even recorded some operatic, and just last week recorded violinists. So I do whatever. Wherever the industry takes me, that's where I end up. I mean, I grew up in the music industry, so my family has a total gospel background. I was the little kid sleeping under church pews and sleeping underneath the organ in the studio. And I grew up just in the studio, in the music environment. And when hip hop came around really and exploded in the early 80s, I was the little kid that was like, oh, I want to do that. You know, because it just appealed to me. It just fit with who I was at that time. And so that's really my beginnings. I mean, the little rugrat running around in the studio, sleeping under the console, you know, in the corner, wherever I could fit in. What I'm trying to show them is basically how to create the quality of music that you hear on the radio, and especially when it comes to urban music. You know, through all my years of producing, I've always run into a problem where you get people out of college or fresh out of institutions where they like, okay, I want to do hip hop, but they never trained how to do urban music or how to really mix or produce R&B or how to really mix or produce gospel or any of the music you would consider urban music. And so it's always a problem in the studio with them because I have to basically spend months training an engineer how to give me the quality of sound I need for those specific genres. So that's why I'm teaching urban music production, so that there is an outlet for them. There's a mass amount of students now that want to learn about urban music, and most of them are producers. They're producing hip hop, they're producing EDM, they're producing dubstep, they're producing all these electronic records that have a hip hop undertone, and so they need to know where the kick is, where the bass is, where the snare is, how to really create that low end like they want. Well, this year I have, this semester I have 18 students in my class, and the class is more, my class is structured more around projects. Because the only way, I tell them right off the bat, I'm not going to sit here and go through 8 million theories of how you do urban music and how you do this, that. My job is to get you ready for the real world. So I'm more practical than theoretical. So I want to hear projects. I'm going to send you on missions to do projects. I need you to work. I need you to create projects so that we can evaluate them, and then through the process of me, not only just me evaluating you, but your peers evaluating you also, and then we listen to it, and I explain why something may not be where it needs to be, and what it's going to take to get your sound to where it needs to be, so that, you know, because the number one complaint you always hear from people, especially in urban music, is why doesn't my stuff sound like the stuff does on the radio? And there are certain little techniques that we use to make sure that when it goes to radio, it sounds a certain way. But if you don't know those techniques, and those techniques aren't necessarily taught in books either, you know, and it's a lot of experimentation in the studio. It's a lot of your own personality coming through in your music. But if you don't know how to get your own personality out, then that's where you have a problem. So my job is to teach you how to get your personality out and really express yourself in the studio through your music, through your creativity, through your basses, through your kicks, through your snares, through the way you record vocals, through the way you talk to your musicians, through the way you talk to anyone who's around you, through the artists. So that's how my class is structured. My class is structured around the true practical application of producing urban music. My main platform that I personally use is I use Logic Pro X. I am an Apple certified pro with Logic Pro X, but I'm also proficient in Pro Tools. Yeah, those are my main two tools that I use to create. For my class, students need to know, or at least have a history or understanding of what hip hop is, what R&B is, what literally the words urban music production mean, and what we're really going to be doing in that class. You know, they need to have a basic understanding of certain DAWs, you know, like either whether they're using Logic, Reason, Cubase, whatever, and some working knowledge of a studio. You know, they don't need to be, you know, overly proficient, because we are going to learn the things we need to learn, but they need to have some basic understanding of a recording studio and a recording environment, and all have professional attitudes and be ready to learn. When my students leave my class, I want them to be able to be in any situation when it comes to producing a record, especially in the urban category. And it doesn't even matter if it's urban, but when you leave my class, if some record manager or artist asks you, can you make a record for me, you can say yes, and know exactly what you need to do, and know exactly how you need to record it, and know exactly the quality and the standard that you need to reach in order for that project to be great. And that's the goal of my class. If you leave my class and can do that, then I've done my job and you're a dope student. I honestly think the thing that a lot of the students, the reason a student would gravitate towards me is because I have the time in my day to help them to achieve what they want to achieve, and I have no problem with doing that. And we can not only do it here in Loyola, if I can bring you into my world and take you to my own personal studio and have you work on records. And the one thing about me is, if you're in the studio and somebody comes in, or I'm working with a client or whoever, and you're talented in what you do, I'm going to ask you for your help. So now you have the opportunity to be on these records, because if you're a pianist and you're in the studio with me and I'm working with whoever, I'm going to say, I need you to play some piano on this record. So that will be your opportunity. And that's exactly what happened with Rainey Antoine. That's what happened with Kimberly McMillan. We were in the studio. I'm working on a record for Dapper, for one of his singles. And Rainey was there. I said, Rainey, I need a piano. I need it to go like this. And you have great fingering technique. Let's do it. And he was nervous at first. He was playing all kind of craziness. And then he finally got it together, and what he played was amazing. And then Kimberly, I needed her to sing some background oohs and to fill in the spaces in the record, and she was able to do that. And now they're all over Dapper's singles, and and we just developed a working relationship from that. And I expect to do that with all my students as much as I can. You have to be proficient at everything you do. I mean, and the details matter, especially when it comes to being in the music industry, being a producer. Everything matters, from the reverb on the hi-hat to how you speak to the artist that you're dealing with, to your demeanor and your attitude in the studio, how you communicate. You have to have great communication skills. Because I do it all the time, and if you can't talk to an artist, or talk to your musicians, or talk to your engineer if you're using one, and convey what you need them to do, then you're going to run into a serious problem. A professional is the person that is really going to make sure that your product is 100% how it needs to be. That all your T's are crossed, all your I's are dotted, that when you come out with a product, whether it be music or whatever, I mean, a professional in the general sense of the term is just a person who's going to be the best at what they do and hold a specific standard for how you do whatever it is that you are doing, whatever field you're in. If I go classical, I'm definitely Quincy Jones. But if I stick to the people who I learned under and who I slept in their studios when I was a kid, and they're the ones who inspired me, then you're looking at Timberland. You're looking at a guy named Gary Gizzo Smith, who's out of Atlanta. You know, he did Jagged Edge and Tony Braxton and TLC. I mean, so those are the producers that I grew up under that taught me what I know. And then also my partnership with Darius Diesel Harrison, who produced Lil Wayne and did the Carter 3. So those are the guys that I consider great producers that I've actually had, that have influenced me and helped me become the producer that I am. So those are great producers in my eyes. Hopefully having a lot of classes at Loyola. I mean, honestly, in 5 years, my goal, and I always tell my classes this, is that I've worked with a numerous amount of Grammy Award winners. And my personal goal is I don't want to help anyone else win Grammys. I want to win my own Grammys. So that's where that's my goal. And in 5 years, I expect to have my Grammy. I expect to have it sitting on the mantle if I can here somewhere in Loyola, so that I can showcase that. That's my Super Bowl. That's the Super Bowl for the music industry. My mom has been teaching for, I think, 42 years. And I grew up, once again, with my mom, always in schools with her also. And so I am a certified teacher. And I graduated from Grambling as a certified teacher in health, physical education, and social studies. But my profession was always in the music industry. So people always ask me, why didn't you get it? Like, dude, I always did music, so I never felt the need that I had to go and, do whatever. But I'm a certified teacher, and this is like the great culmination of the two. To be able to teach what I do that's like a dream come true. It's beautiful. And if it wasn't for my mother, being the singer that she is, and she's also, a very prominent gospel singer. So being that the singer that she is, being the teacher that she was, I mean, I guess I'm what my mom created. Okay, so the project we did with the Son of a Saint organization. First of all, the Son of a Saint organization is it's a foundation that helps fatherless boys. So whether the fathers have been incarcerated or dead or murdered or whatever else, the Son of a Saint takes those boys and they give them the opportunity for mentorship. And through mentorship, we allow them the ability to have opportunities that they normally would not have in their normal day-to-day lives. So what I felt is, being a mentor for Son of a Saint and working at Loyola University, I said, okay, well, I can merge the two. So I brought some of the students over, some of the kids over, to talk to my students. And my whole thing is, I wanted the students, I'm like, if you're going to learn urban music production, then you need to learn why there is even a genre called urban music. What this music really comes from. And the best way to learn that is from the kids that are living in it. And so I brought the kids in. The students get an opportunity to talk to the children and tell the kids tell them their story, so the students really get an understanding of, oh, okay, this is the life you're really living. It's not just something you're seeing from afar up on the hill somewhere. It's literally tangible. It's right in front of you, and you get to talk to these children and interact with them. And then what I want them to do, one of their major projects, is working on a record that embodies the child that they met, working on a record that that speaks to those, speaks through for those kids, and so that's one of the major projects for the class. And then my job is, of course, to help them, make sure that I guide them through the project, and to make sure all the professionalism that they have, that they have the everything in it that needs to be there, all their T's are crossed and their I's are dotted. These kids, and it's hard for me, but these children, the hard part about it is that, like I was telling you, one of the students there, your father was killed by your mother, and then your adopted parents kill your, it's horrible situations that these children come from. And so to give them that light at the end of the tunnel and give them this exposure and this experience to work with the students here at Loyola, that's awesome for them. That it's like you see the light bulb go off. You see them, because it also, our goal through Son of a Saint is we get them at 9 or 10, and we follow them through till they get their college acceptance letter. And so we mentor them up through that situation. So it's a great opportunity to give them the college exposure also, as well as giving the students from Loyola the exposure to understand those children and to understand how a certain part of the world is, and these are some of your kids who really need that exposure, and hopefully that these kids from Son of a Saint will end up here at Loyola. And so it's a great platform. It's a great medium.